Few companies have generated as much shareholder wealth as Eicher Motors, and joining me today is the man who triggered the turnaround in the company when he took over a decade back. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Siddhartha.
And you know,
it's one of your chic outlets. Why don't you show me around how it is?
Sure, let's go in.
Okay. Siddhartha, you have sort of explained this new phase in your company as phase 2, which is where you've sort of set yourself like high global ambition. You've said that you want to sort of target the medium duty segment, and by 2030, 50% of the market you would want. So just talk a little more about your global strategy. How different will it be from whatever you've done in India so far?
Well, in the larger scheme of things, it's going to have to be very different, and that's why we're sort of internally in our organization preparing ourselves for a new phase. It doesn't mean that we ignore India. That's our starting point. That's where most of our sales, most of our profits, most of our scale, our business model, our team, manufacturing, engineering, everything comes from here. So this is our bastion. This is what we work with, and this is extremely important. So strengthening India is extremely important for a future play. So without a strong India, nothing happens. Right? So that's the starting point. And so we're doing a lot of work in India. But then what we figure in the larger scheme of things is that, and me and the team, and we've traveled a lot, and in the last 20 years, we've spent a lot of time just going to other markets. We're not selling too many motorcycles there, but we are understanding, absorbing for many, many years. And what we've understood is that there's a gap.
Right.
And we see that gap, sometimes you see the gap like really plain and wide, and it's there. It's there for the taking. No one is really going for it in the manner that we would like to. So maybe I shouldn't talk that much about it. But it's, the gap is that there are not many, let's say, fun, evocative, simple,
in that
middleweight motorcycles in the world which are accessible. And there are motorcycles, so it's not that they're absent, it's just that they're not as super exciting, or let's say, or they're not brands which evoke interest and love. Right. And
that's what you're going to...
That's where we want to be, and we see that, and we see in developing markets, for example, we see that what's the trend that's happened in India, which is basically commuters...
premiumization.
Yeah, premiumization, something like that. But what they're saying is that we want something more. We want something that reflects our personality. We want something that we can go long distance. We don't want just a simple A to B commuter. And that has taken off in India. And we've, I believe, been, at least on our side,
surely
pulled a lot of that market up. We can see that in Latin America and Southeast Asia clearly right now. It should happen, and we want to drive that.
Right. In fact, we will quickly talk about your difference in strategy in the developed market and the developing markets in just a bit. But tell us a little more about the fact that you recently announced your own subsidiary distribution company in the US. You made some high-profile hirings, from different sort of premium and sports motorcycle manufacturers. When do we see your sales begin in the US, and typically, like, what are the kind of products that you would be that you'd be targeting for a very developed market like America?
Yeah, similarly to where we started off in India, to that extent, I think there's some similarities. Is that my view is that while we're talking about this and we're spending a lot of time, energy in a new geography, which means relatively new customers. It's a known brand, but it's still new. People haven't purchased it as much. New distribution in a lot of cases, not in all cases. All of these things, if you put all these things together, it takes a hell of a time. It's not going to happen overnight. So what we're doing is we're building up a team, we're building up capability, we're building up knowledge and presence, and honestly, we're going to make a ton of mistakes while we go forward. We already have. So what's going to happen is that I think the phase over the next 5 years is to just establish foundation of the brand, of distribution, of understanding. We'll get some new products in. Hopefully some will do well. Probably some won't. We'll get to learn from that. And I think the next 5 years, in my opinion, is more foundation building. Right. And with the right team. So as you said rightly, what we focused on is, we know we have a great brand. People are very receptive to it in international markets. They hear Royal Enfield, they hear the history, and they're like, you know, they're already forward. So that's already good for us. So now we're building a very strong team around that, and that's what's going to help us learn and navigate our way to creating a global brand, because it's not going to be easy, but we know where we want to go.
Right. So, but when, just give us an idea, when do we see you entering then the US market, since you've already set up a company by...
It's not entering US market. We've actually been present in US for 15 years. Distributor.
Right.
It was a half-hearted play.
Exactly.
So now we've got a nearly 15-member team, and like you said, some really, really good people from the top of the industry in the US. So we've been able to attract them, which is also really exciting for me. Actually, that's probably the most exciting part, that we talk to these people and they're actually willing to join us. I'm like, okay, thanks, that's great. So, but for a reason, I hope. And yeah, so we are starting 1st of January. We start our own market company sales. So we're appointing our own dealers.
Right.
We're probably opening up a store or two on our own, and that's how we're going forward in the US. It's going to take time. I mean, you know, hopefully we'll have sales growth. We will have sales growth, but on a small base right now.
Right.
So our objective of reaching, let's say, you know, I mean, it's a very loose objective because every market is different in size, but basically from hundreds, which we were doing in markets, we want to reach in the 10,000 plus range. That's a very round number, but in any international market of size, because that's then a sizable player in that market. So it's not about our percentage of export from India. We don't care about that. What we care about is being relevant in that market. So firstly, we want to have enough so that there's enough distribution, there's enough presence on the roads, all of that. So that's another 3-4 years down, I think, for all.
So like this with 10,000, talking about the developed world per se, or just the US or North America?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the US, the idea is that, you know, in order to sustain the number of stores that we require, and in order to get, you know, some traction in the middleweight market, that's a, you know, I'm just giving order of magnitude in the next 3-5 years. If you can start selling 1,000 a month, that's an interesting start. Then we're making a dent in the market. We're not just making a dent on, I don't care about making a dent in our P&L here in India, that's not important, but dent in that market, that's important. And people see us as relevant, as somebody who makes quality motorcycles which are evocative and beautiful. That's important for us.
Right. And you've and will this also be a gateway to other North American markets like Canada and places like that, Mexico? Do we see that?
Sure. I mean, USA is the
mother and the...
And in fact, the Royal Enfield North America team is going to run Canada as well. But other than that, we've not yet decided. I mean, it could happen for sure, but that's not in our current vicinity. There's enough on the plate for between US and Canada.
Right. You said that, however, that the fulcrum of growth, the main sort of boost is going to come from the developing markets, and hence, with that idea, you've entered the Indonesian market. You announced that in August. So, you know, so tell me a little bit more about it in terms of, you know, the developing market. Are you seeing similarities between India and Indonesia, since it's the world's 3rd largest motorcycle market?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the longer term, if you're going to develop markets in the order of magnitude of India, or that's going to be developing markets. We're not going to sell, I mean, I can't even think of the time frame, but we're not going to sell many tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands in a developed market. That's, I'd love to, but I don't think that's going to happen, at least because the size of the market is not, unless we grow the size of the market. But anyway, the focus is that in developing markets, where you have an India-like environment, where there's millions of population of commuters, that's the important part. So there's already, you know, in Indonesia, probably 20-30 million people on commuting motorcycles, right? So that is our audience, and when they are looking for an upgrade, we want to be right there in their upgrade path. So while the brand is quite different, so when you see a Royal Enfield brand in a showroom, or it's extremely different from seeing a Indo-Japanese, Chinese type sort of brand, right? But from a accessibility point of view, it's in their direct path, because we want to be a brand which is an upgrade brand, not a super high brand. Right? So their Indonesia and all fit in extremely well.
No, the fact that you've now sort of set up your own sort of, distribution company in the US, will a similar sort of strategy also pan out in the developing markets? But that's where you're looking at the volumes, and logic would suggest that, intuitively that you would have to follow a similar sort of an approach in the developing markets.
We're taking each market individually, and we don't want to be there in too many markets. In fact, if you see on paper, we've actually reduced the number of markets we are in the last few years, because if you're selling a container here and 150 bikes there,
exactly,
and it's not strategic, we're in fact pulling out. So, but every single market that we want to enter into, it is a market that we will take individually. So just to give you an example, in Colombia, we found an amazing partner. They're really, really good. They understand Royal Enfield brand. They have existing distribution. They're willing to invest in new distribution for us. And so we went with them. And in Colombia, we understand the cultural nuances. People want to buy from a Colombian firm. That's what we believe now. Maybe wrong, but that's what we've understood after spending a couple of years there and understanding the market. So there we've gone with the partner. In Indonesia, which you asked about, for example, we've said right now the duties are extremely high and we don't have any plans immediately to start manufacturing there, for example. So instead of going for a wide approach, like we're going in Colombia, a wider approach in Colombia, let's put it, we're in 5-6 cities, etc. In Indonesia, we've said Jakarta is the,
exactly.
It's the big guy there, right? So if you can crack Jakarta, then we're sorted, I think. So anyway, these are all assumptions, right? So what we're saying in Jakarta is that let's put up a beautiful single store. Right now we're after a single store, which has all of Royal Enfield. So it looks like this and maybe a few more motorcycles, there's some more gear, but so to and then to really get under the skin, to get with the people, to get with the riders, to create a demand pull for Royal Enfield, so that people in Jakarta are saying, look, this is interesting, I like this motorcycle.
In that region, do we also see you looking at, at a later stage local assembly there, considering, again, as I keep coming back to the point of, you're saying that will be the growth sort of driver. So how will you do it? Because there people will say you will lose your competitiveness if you're sort of
So in the long term, once we see that success, we're in Jakarta, we're also in Bangkok now, we're getting into Bangkok, so similarly. And once we see success in these markets, and a few of these markets, we will certainly like to do local manufacturing, we will have to do local manufacturing to be a relevant player there. But that's step 2 for us, that's not step 1. So we first go in, create demand, and then we'll do local.
So apart from the developed markets, you've talked about Colombia, you've talked about Indonesia, you've talked about Thailand. More in the pipeline, Siddhartha? Are you studying more markets in this region?
Yeah.
And what? Like what sort of?
Like if the big guy in Southeast Asia is Indonesia, and Thailand's pretty large as well on the other hand. In Latin America, it's Brazil, right? So that's the big daddy out there. That's where. So
have you started internally studying?
Absolutely. I've been there. Our team has studied that market a lot. We've been spending a lot of time there. We have Royal Enfield employees, or let's say local Brazilian chap sitting there who works for us, and we've been working a lot. So there's a lot of stuff going on, let's say behind the scenes right now to understand the market, to see what play we can make. It's a very tricky market, Brazil.
Right, absolutely. In fact, I was chatting with the KTM CEO. He was also talking about how tricky Brazil is. Let's quickly slip into a break. On the other side, we'll focus specifically on the India market. Stay tuned. While we were in the break, Siddhartha and I, we got a cup of coffee and we're ready to begin our conversation. Tell me a little bit more about the India market then, Siddhartha, because that again is your baby. And you've announced some very significant ramp up in production. But a question that many would be asking, that you've grown at over 50% in the last 5 years. Clearly, how sustainable is that growth? And is that realistic to expect that sort of growth going forward?
That's a very good question, isn't it? I mean, we all ask ourselves that. And honestly, if you'd asked me this question even 3 years ago, and we'd grown for 2 years at 50% every year, and I would have said, I don't think it's going to grow that fast. And frankly, the answer is who knows, right? And the point is that we don't spend our time worrying about that issue. We spend our time figuring out how to continue to keep the market growing for us. So on the one hand, because we have such a excellent franchise now, Royal Enfield franchise, the distribution spread is happening really well. So for some of the Indo-Japanese companies, for example, what happened in the 90s, right? They they grew through distribution spend. The product was the same, but they grew through distribution. That's what's happening with us right now. But a dealer in a marginal town which wasn't able to take a Royal Enfield dealership, so a small town, for example, a C or D town, he's looking around and he's saying, look, with us, because we don't discount, there's good margin, there's good aftermarket revenue, so he's figuring out that actually it's a good franchise. So through franchise, we're growing really rapidly. We've got a lot of new products in the pipeline which hopefully will help us in keeping that momentum up. We've got a lot of things going on. I mean, on the brand side, you can see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the answer to that question is, honestly, we don't know, but we're not waiting to find out. We're going to keep moving the market forward as much as we can, and of course, at some point, we're going to stop growing at 50%.
But
I don't know when that is. Yeah.
Right. Tell us a little bit about the two platforms, because clearly that is going to be that big sort of move from Royal Enfield. You know, but again in the medium sort of segment between 250 and 750. So tell us a little more about it. When do we see the first launch happening? What do we expect? What are your own expectations from that? Because clearly there is a lot of interest, as you would have already noticed.
Yeah, so the internet obviously knows more than we do right now in what's going on. And but yeah, it's of course, you know, the idea is that we don't stand still, we keep moving forward, and as we did with our current range of motorcycles, we develop and create new markets. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't, that's fine, that's part of life. But the basic idea, of course, is to grow the middleweight market. But the more important part of that is that we develop platforms. So the two new platforms that we've talked about are both going to be absolutely global platforms. What I mean is that they're going to be extremely, in our opinion, of course, and the way we are putting them forward is that they're going to be extremely relevant in India. So we are going to still get our scale from India. If you think about it, that's where, like I said, that's our bastion, that's where we have the distribution, the brand recall is best in India. So both the new platforms, we believe, will have an extremely high relevance in India. And on top of the scale of India, we'll be able to then take them to other markets. So these are, again, simple, non-extreme. We're not going to see some super fast or super heavy or super big or super expensive. It's not like that.
It's okay.
But it's fun, it's simple, it's middleweight, mid-cc, you know, between 250 and 750, somewhere there.
Call it mid-cc.
That's where we're heading to. And but it's let's say, I wouldn't say flanking, but it's around. It's not obviously this, because then there's no point in doing it again, or you know, the unit engine. It's the next generation in some sense, you know. We're taking it all forward.
So give us a sense. When do we expect the first of the?
We've already said in the the first of the lot will come out early next year.
Early next year. So around the Auto Expo.
2016, I don't know around, but in the order.
So at least in the first
half of next year,
calendar year.
First half of next calendar year.
Well, first half. That means
certainly we'll
can be anywhere from the January to June.
It can be, and you'll get your invite very soon, so you'll figure it out when it is. And the next one will be similarly in the first half of, or in, let's say, in 2017 for sure. Hopefully we'll try and get it out in the first half.
Right. And this would
the next
be
platform, I'm saying. Yeah.
And this would be exported to all your markets then, wherever you're present.
Again, over time, not all markets immediately. I mean, you know, we develop the India motorcycle first, for example, in the case, and then we sort of expand. So there's many different thoughts, but yes, the platform is a global, both the platforms are global platforms.
You've also decided Royal Enfield will not be participating in the Auto Expo.
Right.
What's the thinking, Sid? Does Royal Enfield want to differentiate itself from rest of the auto companies?
Well, that's not the reason. I mean, we do want to differentiate ourselves in many ways from auto companies, but that's not the reason for us not to be in the Auto Expo. That's I would say, more commercial decision, in the sense that what do we want to get out of it? It's an expensive show to be in. It costs a lot of money, and we felt we could do better with that money this year. So, you know, we have other ideas of how to spend it.
But that's also part of your thing, right? Because you see yourself, I understand, more as a lifestyle company, perhaps, rather than really like a brick and mortar two-wheeler company.
Yeah, you can see that here. I mean,
precisely why I'm asking.
The place you're at. I mean, look at our publications that we talk about. I mean, all of it is. We believe that's where we can take motorcycling to. We believe that, you know, traditionally automobile companies, motorcycle companies, they're all so staid. I mean, everyone is just, you know, the only mission.
Do you have any friends left in the two-wheeler? I know Rajiv and your good friends.
I was just thinking about, you know, very, you know,
linear.
You sell one more motorcycle, and and everyone says we have customer relationship, but no one really does. Once you sell a car or motorcycle, you're done. Your profit has been made by that company, so you're out. We're also a bit like that, so we're not, but we want to move to a company which
right, gives more.
Yeah, it's more about the experience, and we want to put all our effort, energy, our marketing dollars, as it's called, or rupees, behind experience. We want to make sure, and that's been our strength so far. We want to make sure that once you buy a Royal Enfield motorcycle, you have a hell of a time. You have the best time. You have, and not just our stuff. So we have, of course, our stuff here, but you have customizers who are third parties. We don't benefit from them directly, but so that you can personalize your motorcycle. You have other people who are making accessories for you. You have infrastructure of rentals and tour operators. So once you have that entire ecosystem of interesting things going around, and programming, we want to do a lot of programming, events, activities, all of that. Once you do that, that creates, you know, a genuine interest of people in the brand, rather than what the current status quo is.
Your market share in the 150cc plus segment in India is well above 20%. And now, you know, how do you see rivalry with Bajaj? Number one. Number two, we'll have TVS BMW alliance kicking in very shortly. We don't know the sort of products that they will be introducing. But clearly, I mean, do you see, you know, any competition? Because even though they may be different segments, but surely there will be spillover effects.
Surely. So, you know, we study competition a lot. We make sure we always take a very different direction, but we've ridden every motorcycle, we understand their business models, we understand what they're trying to do. So it's not that we've got blinders on and we're just doing our little thing on here. But we also are very sure that we're not everything for everybody, right? So in fact, the way we train our salespeople in a store like this is, if someone's coming in for a, you know, what's it called, a really quick motorcycle. So there's this young chap who wants a really fast motorcycle, and he says, here's a Continental GT, it's the best bang for the buck, I want to buy this. And the guy will be like, hold on, it's a classic, beautiful, it rides in this manner, why don't you ride it? If you like the ride, great. But if you want the best bang for your buck, there's another showroom around the corner, please go there.
And rivalry with Harley Davidson, or it's not? Or is it overrated and misunderstood? Because clearly they are like a, you know, they are in a different segment, but now, you know, they are also sort of scaling down. So,
you know, our personalities are, I mean, or let's say Royal Enfield personality is different. We don't really think of people as rivals, and you know, that whole thing about competition and all. We're gentle folk, you know. We just sort of we're gentle folk. We don't, you know, we like
smiling
everybody.
assassins.
Yeah, so okay, if you like to put it that way. But we like all sorts of motorcycles. I ride everything. You know, it's not like I'm saying, oh my God, I can't touch that other motorcycle. It's fine. I mean, we enjoy the sport of motorcycling, the leisure of motorcycling. That's what we enjoy doing, and we recognize that there are different sorts of motorcycling, and people like extreme off-roading. I think it's great fun. I've been off-roading and it's brilliant fun. That's not our motorcycle, the extreme off-roading. We'll go on another one for that.
Thank you so much, Siddhartha, for your time. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Great to see you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
That was Siddhartha Lal in conversation with me. Hope you liked watching it as much as I liked interviewing him. Until next time, goodbye.